There we go. So Dr. Ward, I'll turn it over to you and get started.
Jay, it's saying host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, you should be good to go now. Sorry about that.
You're good. Okay, so let me know if you can't see my screen and then let me get, okay. So yeah, I'm going to talk about kind of resources for primary care doctors for MS care. And the presentation itself is actually going to be the slides are going to be kind of short because I thought I would actually just kind of show you all the resources that I think are the most helpful. Okay, so the National MS Society is a really great resource for lots of things MS related. So they have a ton of resources about diagnosis of MS, treatment of MS, symptom management, and then like links to support services. So it's a great resource both for, doctors, but also especially for patients to get information. They also have this thing called the Patient Navigator program, which connects patients to like an actual person who can help them navigate, kind of through the process and provide them with resources. So that's really nice, just in terms of like the patients can actually talk to a person. There is a specific West Virginia chapter of the MS Society. Um, More of the kind of direct resource information is going to come from like the national hub. And then this is the website, nmss.org. I'm going to exit out of this presentation real fast and show you all the MS Navigator page. So the easiest way to get to that is just to, Google search it. Okay, and then it's going to be the first thing. You guys can see this internet web page, right? Okay. All right, so you can see they have a little video on there. This talks a little bit about what the navigators do, and then there's phone number and like email contact information. So patients can call that number. It's also possible for providers to refer patients to that program, but I usually think it's easier for the patient to just get in touch with them themselves because then it's kind of on their time. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, it has a lot of different resources also. So, it has resources for them to kind of connect to other patients, but also there's a section on financial resources and like here's places you can look to help get assistance with things like meals and housing and all that stuff and prescription assistance programs, which are also useful. And then again, you can see utilities, all that stuff. So it's a really great, resource to give to patients. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff. And then also, there is a link to education programs. And so this has, again, a bunch of different stuff, but then there's also a section where patients can attend virtual programs, which is really nice because then they can, listen. All right, so that's a little bit of an overview of the MS Society website. There's a million more things on there, but those are kind of the, I think, most useful in terms of where we as healthcare providers can route patients for information and resources. Okay, so one of my other favorite websites is mymstoolkit.com. So it's developed by the University of Michigan. It has a ton of resources for patients to help self-manage their symptoms. So symptomatic issues in MS are a really big thing and, really can be more, the day-to-day symptoms can be more debilitating for a lot of people than like the acute relapses and things like that, which fortunately are rare with the newer MS medicines. I also have given this website to some patients who don't have MS because it really has a lot of good tools for lots of symptoms that a lot of our patients deal with. So I've given it to some people, just with the caveat that I have to say very, very clearly, you don't have MS, but these things can be helpful. So this is that website. So, it talks a little bit, they're kind of a getting started thing. It talks a little bit about kind of here's some of the common symptomatic issues in MS. It talks about the usefulness of self-management, which I think is something that we don't, or me as a provider, I don't always do as good of a job talking to patients about, all of the things they can be doing to help their symptoms, which is something I need to focus on more. But anyways, it's something that can take a lot of time, so it's good when we can refer people to a resource they can use. So again, you can see this is a little bit overview, but then there's sections for things like fatigue. So they talk about how to manage that. You can see all the rest of these things on here: sleep, emotions, working with thoughts, which I actually think is really helpful too. So very good resource for MS. I've utilized it for some other patients too. And then I also just wanted to mention that I do an outreach clinic once a month. It's on the fourth Thursday, and it's at the Glenville Clinic, which may be closer for some people's patients than Morgantown. It's a general neurology clinic, so I basically just kind of see whatever comes through there, but certainly also see MS patients there. So if you all are have patients that, would really have a challenging time getting to Morgantown, but are able to get to Glenville, then that can be a good resource because they can still see me down there. So again, that's kind of overview of the most common and helpful resources, I think, for a primary care provider. It's always great to have um, uh, like a resource for dedicated neurologic physical therapists, which we have some in Morgantown. The challenge is just though it's really hard to find those. So I went and looked today. There's like a website called Find a PT, but it wasn't crazy helpful in terms of like specific neuro PTs. Um, okay, so that's mostly what I had in terms of an overview of resources. I'm happy to take questions, or if anybody else has other things they want to throw in there, especially Dr. Seacrest, please speak up.
Sure. Just a couple quick comments. For the enrolling patients, I just talked to the MS folks, MS Society folks pretty recently, and for our patients that have a lot of trouble with electronic anything, that's where it can be helpful to enroll them yourself. Just a little bit takes some time, but because then they can call them and it can be by phone. And the patient navigators are really great. They're usually people with MS that really provide a lot of assistance and walk them through it. Um, and then we also have an outreach clinic in Fairmont. I guess you'd call it an outreach clinic. I'm down there a little bit, but less and less each month it seems. But we see uh, MS down there. We see everything. It's a general clinic. And we do have the option. We do a lot of telemedicine visits with our patients, including the MS folks. There are times where it's really good to see them when we have new symptoms, but for the most part, we can get away with a lot of tele.
Yeah, and I also am working on some potential plans for maybe expanding our capabilities for outreach a little bit more, but that's still in flux. So I won't go into too much more detail about that, but hopefully we'll have some more outreach opportunities in the not too distant future. Also, I meant to send that "yep" to just Jay. He asked me if I could give him my slides. If anyone's wondering why I randomly said "yep," that's why. Okay.
Any
I mean,
comments or
does any
questions from the group? Yeah, no, I was just gonna say.
I mean, especially if anyone has specific things they wanna ask about that, "I have a patient with this problem. How can I help them?" Like, you can reach out to us anytime.
I have a question regarding the outreach clinics. Are those for both patients diagnosed and potentially undiagnosed with MS, or yeah, do they already have to have the diagnosis to receive services at those outreach clinics?
No, it's for new and established patients. Anybody can come. I mean, I see everything there, seizures and neuropathy and whatever comes through the door is what I see.
Yeah, same with Fairmont.
And is it walk-in, or do the primary care physicians, are they able to refer for an appointment, or can the patient themselves call, or is it all walk-in?
They need a referral, kind of the same as if they were getting referred up here. I put the website on there, but it's kind of the same process. People can just specify Glenville,
Yeah, and
or I guess
Fairmont is kind of a referral schedule ahead of time. It's definitely pretty backed up right now, just because there's a lot of patients in that area. We do have we have some of our graduates that are now to WVU Neurology is at Berkeley and doing some outpatient, and that's going to expand. And they talk to us because we know them. And then we have two of our graduates. One of them is going to Clarksburg to do outpatient, and the other is going to Wheeling, Moundsville to do outpatient. So there's going to be a lot of kind of back and forth there, and we can help with that.
Yes, and I asked for a list of all the WVU medicine like facilities in the state that have outpatient neurology, but I forgot. I didn't think to do that till like 10:30. So the people I asked have not gotten me that list yet, which is fair. So when I get that, I can send it to Jay and maybe he could send it out because yeah, hopefully there continues to be more providers added kind of throughout the state, like Thomas has some neurology now, and that will be a big help, especially for patients who can't drive all the way to Morgantown. And also, hopefully decompress the schedules a little bit so that people can be seen, sooner. So I will send Jay that list when I get it.
And yes, that list would be terrific, and it's great to see how much WVU is able to expand across the state. As you mentioned, with transportation being so difficult, is telehealth a similar process, a referral process to receive the telehealth appointments as well?
Yeah, currently though, and it may be different for Dr. Seacrest, but the general like rule of thumb up here is that new patients need to be seen in person. And that's partly because especially in MS, like the exam is really important. So every now and then I'll do a new telehealth patient, but that's relatively rare. Kind of the general policy is a new patient needs to be seen in person first. But one thing that I'm hoping we may be able to expand on is ability for telehealth for new patients. But again, like those plans are kind of in their infancy, but I mean,
Yeah.
assuming I get the go ahead, it wouldn't take too long to get up and running. But
Same with me. There's some rare exceptions, but for the most part, it's kind of the clinic policy to see somebody in person first, just to really get a better sense of what's going on. And it does become a problem for our patients that live right across the border because few of us have multiple state licenses. And then there's only maybe one person that could see them by tele, unless they drove across the border and parked wherever and just did it in their car, which is also fine to do. But it's that's a big challenge, especially for the Maryland and Pennsylvania people.
But at the end of the day, our goal is to help as many people as we can. So, we're always willing to try to work with people for extenuating circumstances. Well, that's all I had, but I really would encourage everybody to utilize these online resources. I mean, not all of our patients have internet or are able to use it, but for people who can, these are really helpful because it can be hard sometimes. A lot of places don't have necessarily a dedicated social worker in their clinic to tell people about financial resources, but there's a lot of info about that online.
I guess a piggyback with that, if any, primary care doctors, community doctors are worried their patient has multiple sclerosis and wants an evaluation, like reach out to us. Just putting an referral in maybe won't necessarily work the best. There's a lot of layers to go through, and it could get delayed and maybe not put in the right basket, depending on what exactly is put down. So just reaching out directly to myself or Dr. Ward, and we can figure it out and get them in.
Especially new diagnosis patients. We really like to try to get those people seen within 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, and we are updating our clinic, the whole WV neurology clinic in Morgantown, to have someone to review the referrals and go through the chart and try to like put people in the right basket to try to help with this. Because sometimes the order will just say numbness, and that could be anything. They may see kind of somebody who's more neuromuscular and looks at carpal tunnel, and then it's, oh no, it's actually MS. Well, you waited 3 months to get in to this person, and now you got to wait another month or 6 to get in with the other people. So it's that does happen, and we are working on that process, but that's why it's totally fine to reach out to us.
We're pretty nice, if I do say so myself.
The best way to see a neurologist quickly is to know a neurologist. We say that too much because it's true.
Yeah, the ability to have that outreach is great. I think that communication, we've been talking a lot about integrative care as well. Being able. Are there other services available to receive the integrative care when they're there at the clinics? Or are they lower staffed than it would be kind of one service at a time that they would need to come in for, one treatment or one need at a time?
I couldn't totally hear all of your question. It might have just been my computer, but you were asking about integrating care from multiple different subspecialty services. So currently it's a little bit piecemeal, although hopefully that will improve in the future. I'm on like a quality work group for the Neuroscience Institute, and that's one of the hopeful goals, is to be a little more of like a one-stop shop and have a little more multi-D services under one umbrella.
Thank you. And yes, it's me. My internet is not great today, but thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop sharing if that's okay with you, Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you both for giving all those resources. And yep, Dr. Ward's going to be sending me the slides and the links and stuff. So I'll have all that out to the group. So no worries there. But we'll kind of switch gears here, and we have our guest kind of presenter today, Judy. Thank you so much. Sorry for the tech, troubles. It's it's a rite of passage. You passed. You're in the group now. So
Well, thank you.
yeah. So I don't know, Sarah, if you wanted to do a little brief introduction of Judy, and then we Judy, this is real informal. We're just gonna ask questions, give us your story. So don't feel nervous at all or anything like that. Like Dr. Ward said, we're pretty nice. So we're good to go.
Yes, thank you. And Judy, thank you for coming and joining us today. I met Judy through the Multiple Sclerosis Alliance of Virginia. She is a board member, actively participating with the support group, supporting other folks who are diagnosed with MS and other neurologic conditions. We can't say enough about the efforts that MSAV and Judy and the rest of the board members and leadership does to support those who are diagnosed. Judy was diagnosed with MS in 2013, and she has been gracious enough to accept the invitation to come today and talk about some of her experience in clinical care, and be available for questions as well. So thank you, Judy.
Thank you. I was trying to make it so you could see my MSAV shirt, but you can't really see it. But anyway, well, like you said, I was diagnosed in 2013. I'm thinking that I had it longer than that because I used to fall a lot and I was just considered clumsy. But anyway, um, my vertigo was actually how, I mean, it got to the point where I just couldn't ignore it anymore. And, and believe it or not, almost the first thing I did was try to find a support group. And that's one thing that I found. I was actually encouraged not to go to a support group by physicians. I think they thought it would be like gloom and doom, and I just didn't understand, MS, and I wanted to, you know, seek more information. And um, Suzanne O'Connell was a founder of the MSAV and our group leader, so I was like the first person that she called. So anyway, it really over the last 10, 11 years has made a big difference is having the support group to lean on. I mean, I've been a support group leader, I volunteer a lot, um, and I also have been on the board. But I mean, I really only stopped working as of January 2022. Um, so that has been taken on a whole new level of stress. But I'm now on my third appeal with Social Security. And of course, I know y'all probably don't want to know all these things. So, um, yeah. So it's been frustrating because my job was actually in finance with Carillion Clinic. I don't know if y'all are familiar with them or not, but so as far as Social Security is concerned, they look at it as physically, I don't necessarily have a problem working, which is true. I mean, I have progressed in my mobility, but at that time I didn't. But I was having cognitive issues, and I didn't want to tell people because I was afraid to get fired. And so that's a whole nother story going down that road. Once ADA committee was involved, my bosses didn't like it. But anyway, we won't go down the road. So if anybody's got any particular questions that they wanted to ask me.
Well, first, I would say don't say that we don't want to hear that because I actually think these are the things that are most helpful for us to hear about because it's a struggle for most people who try to get disability getting denied and denied. And it's so frustrating, especially for those kind of more invisible MS symptoms, like you
Yeah.
said, like you can walk around and that kind of stuff, but that doesn't really portray what's going on under the surface. So we appreciate hearing about that from the provider end. Um, I mean, I'll just throw out something. I don't know if you've had something called formal neuropsychological testing, but sometimes that can be helpful from a disability standpoint. It's like a type of testing where they put you through a bunch of memory tests.
Well, I think so. I had to do like different shapes and
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And I thought I did terrible, but I guess because it got denied like a week later for the second time, I must have done better than I thought.
Yeah, it's really
But
hard, and
yeah,
that's
it is. It's just, and I actually have my third appeal is going to be a hearing, online hearing, and I had to get a lawyer this time.
that's what I was gonna
Um,
ask because that often
yeah.
is helpful.
And so that's August 29th. So I'm concerned because and I don't want to get upset, but
That's okay.
so I mean, I did all the right things. I stayed home with my kids when they were little. I got my degree after they, were in middle school, and um worked for Carillion for 20 years, and then here I am having to justify that
Yeah.
I'm not making this up. And it's very humiliating, and I probably sound silly that I'm taken it so personally, but it's just upsetting. And I have a feeling that when we have the meeting with the judge that I'm probably going to get upset because I planned on working till I was 70. I loved my job. I mean, but I'm sure they hear that kind of stuff probably all the time. So I just don't know what to expect. So I'm starting to get kind of nervous about it. But I'm on Briumvi now. I've was on Tecfidera. My first physician I went to see, he really didn't give me a choice. I guess Tecfidera must have been fairly new on the market, and he just gave me samples and said, "You'll get your prescription in a few weeks." So he didn't really even ask me, and I didn't. I mean, I was actually somewhat in shock because they thought I had a pinched nerve in my neck. So I'm still like trying to deal with the reality that it's MS. It's not something minor like they kind of led me to believe. And then he's shoving me Tecfidera, and I'm like, I don't know anything, what my choices were. And so I just went along with it. And I was on it for like 7 years. And I'm not sure that it really was helping me any. And then I went on Ocrevus for a little while. And so because I spent so much time investing in Tecfidera, I was on Ocrevus and I thought, well, I'm not going to let that happen this time. So after probably a couple of years of that, I was feeling like, well, this is not doing anything for me. So I went off medicine for like close to 2 years. And it was also during that time that wasn't working. I was on long-term disability and that kind of stuff. So whether it caused more stress, I don't know. But then I eventually got on Briumvi. Back in January was my first session of Briumvi. So I'm feeling a lot better. It's hard to explain how I feel. I feel more energetic. I've got craft ideas. I do a lot of craft stuff, and we have events at the MSAV, and I volunteer in the office a couple days a week. So those things make me feel useful since I lost my career. So, and unfortunately, I talk about my career a lot because it wasn't just a job, it was a career. So anyway, sorry, I get distracted. I enjoy the things that we do at the office. And I really, with the MSAV, I really believe that we've made a difference in a lot of people's lives. And I feel good that maybe I've helped with that situation. I don't know. But I'm just trying to make things a little easier for other people, like I feel like was shown to me in the beginning. Insurance is a big issue for me because I haven't been approved for Social Security. I'm too young to get Medicare. I'm only 60. Make that sound like that's young. But I don't, I can't get Medicare until I get Social Security. So I'm having to pay for marketplace insurance, and they deny a lot of stuff. So I still have to get assistance with Carillion to help with MRIs and things like that. And then there's the whole people at Carillion know me, and that's humiliating. But anyway, so sorry, I keep rumbling on. So any other questions?
Stop saying sorry. Yeah, we always appreciate a patient's perspective. So please don't say sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I can say that too, Judy. It's really interesting to hear your experiences, particularly how your experiences with physicians like impacted your future decision making about your healthcare. That type of information is like really helpful and really useful for us to understand, so that hopefully we can help to fix some of those problems that you experience and some of those feelings that you felt like maybe you weren't able to express or communicate at the time. So it is really helpful to hear.
Thank you.
I also agree with that. Thank you for sharing and being so open with your experience. I'm curious, you know, in your conversations with your physicians, are there ways they could have opened up the space more to talk about treatment options?
I mean, well,
And you
for
said-
one of the physicians was foreign. My first physician was foreign, and I don't mean anything against that. It was just somewhat hard to understand him. And if I asked questions, he would get mad. um, he would, I believe one time he did tell me to shut up. So Carillion has a tendency to have doctors that come in, they do their time, and then they move on. So it's a teaching hospital. So anyway, to be honest, that kind of stuck with me. And even physicians after that, I didn't ask a lot of questions. I just accepted what they said. I didn't. And now that I'm going through this whole Social Security process, I realize I should have been better about documenting things and asking more questions. For one, it would be in my chart, and as it looks like up until I applied for Social Security, it's like, well, she's been getting along fine, so I could see why Social Security would give me a hard time, and that's makes it that much more upsetting because I feel like I did it to myself. So anyway, I feel like there's more things I should talk about, but
Have
I'm
you ever asked for a case manager through the insurance company that you're at? I'm a case manager, but I'm West Virginia Medicaid.
right,
A lot of times they can advocate for you, and I advocate for my members to get them what they need, to get them the medicines they need, to get them the DME supplies they need. And a lot of times I get stuff authorized that is normally not authorized. So you
right,
may want to think of that because every insurance company, although some people don't realize, they have to have registered nurses, case managers on
right.
staff. So that
Well,
may be one who can advocate for you.
I'm sorry, but up until probably in the last year, maybe I've talked to a caseworker, but in the past, like I said, I just took it at face value, what they told me. This is what I need. This is what you do. And I moved on, and I was not a good advocate for myself. So that's why I say I feel like it's more my fault. So,
But it
Well,
isn't. It's not your fault. People don't understand that at all. People don't understand. They take what a doctor says a lot of times, and until you have someone else to bounce off and talk to, you don't stick up for yourself. So don't
yeah.
blame yourself.
Well,
yeah, I fully agree with that.
our support group, I mean, to make myself even look worse, throughout some of that time, they kept telling me, Judy, you need to advocate for yourself. And I'm just not typically that kind of person. I just, I mean, my late ex-husband had issues, and I had enough going on in my home life to have to deal with that it was just too much to deal with. So,
Well, and I mean, I think historically there wasn't a culture in medicine of like, the whole concept of advocating for oneself is like somewhat of a new concept. I feel like it used to be a lot of like, okay, I'm the doctor, do what I say, have a good day, you're fine, bye, right?
right,
So I think that it was hard for a long time for most people to advocate for themselves. And even now, ideally no one would have to advocate for themselves because we
right.
are a team here and are working for the same cause. But anyways, I just kind of touching on that, number one, so that yes, you shouldn't feel guilty or blame yourself. And number two, I think that's where people like you who do a lot of advocacy work with MS organizations like really make a difference in the next generation of people who get diagnosed with that disease. As frustrating it is obviously for you, and
Right.
ideally you wouldn't have to be dealing with these issues, but it really makes a huge impact on the patients who come behind you to get perspective like yours. So you're selling yourself short.
I have a tendency to do that. But I have to be honest, the support group at the Roanoke Valley MS support group, which we started the MSAV from that, it really has been a lifesaver for me. Not trying to say that I was suicidal or anything, but I'm just saying it's been a very important, I almost would say, tool, you know, to learn. It's taken me a lot of years, but to learn how to advocate for myself. And that's why I also enjoy working at the office and, well, I say working, volunteering at the office. And, just trying to hold events. Like we had a cookout a few weeks ago, and sometimes I'll go. We have like a support group in Bristol and Lynchburg. So I try to go to some of their events. Mostly they come to Roanoke because we're the largest group, but I like to show my support to everybody. And we have different functions, and a lot of times I'll have like what I call game day, but it's really more of a social time. And we might sit there and play cards or something, but we get together and talk about things. And that's really kind of been really important to me since I haven't been able to work. So, any other questions?
You did great, Judy. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, thank you for sharing your story. We really appreciate it. Yeah, I just echo everybody's thing. Please stay positive. Don't beat yourself up too much. You're doing great. And thank you for volunteering, but we know you're working. So we appreciate that. So thank you again.
Thank you. Do I
Thank
stay
you so
on, or
much.
do I stay on, or?
We're actually gonna conclude today unless anybody else has anything for the good of the group. Just let it sit there for a second. We are going to be meeting again in August 7th. That's our next session. Go ahead, Lauren. Sorry, I saw you unmuted.
I just want to say best of luck, Judy, in your upcoming hearing. I know that you and your attorney are going to prepare really well. Don't be nervous. Just be really true about your story and your experience. And remember that that's what the judge is there for. So far, you've been being reviewed on paper, and now you do get the chance for that human kind of perspective to be added to that. So you're going to do a really great job, and best of luck with that decision.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And thank you everybody for the great discussion and questions. And we'll meet up again in a month. So have a great 4th of July weekend. Stay safe, and we'll be talking soon.
Bye.
Bye.